Good morning to you all. I hope I am audible to you all. Just give me a thumb for the same, and our resource person, Dr. Kinnari Thakur, is coming in a short while. Sorry for taking your 2 to 5 minutes. We'll be starting in minutes. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. Uh, yes, good morning, Kinnari madam. Yes, you need to unmute your mic for this thing. Yes.
I was unmute for a long time, so I'm calling, madam. We can start.
Yeah.
I have some problem.
Yeah, you are audible.
Um, I'm.
Yeah.
Am I audible? I am not able to hear because I may be some
Participants,
issue with my.
sorry for taking your 5 to 7 minutes extra. Positive. And
Yeah.
the word positive resembles the God. So let us start with the Saraswati Vandana as our tradition is, and then we'll go further for our session.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणां वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा।
Thank you so much, technical team, for the host. And now I request Hafiza Ghazi madam to take over the session and felicitate the resource person. Good morning to one and all present over here. I, Assistant Professor Hafiza Ghazi from Niranjana Majithia College of Commerce, would like to welcome our resource person, Dr. Kinnari Thakkar ma'am. I would also like to say a few words about the ma'am. Ma'am, do I have your permission?
Yes, madam, sure.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. About the ma'am academic qualifications, she has done MCom, MBA in Finance, and PhD. She is also company secretary, cost and management accountant, and gold medalist in MCom from University of Mumbai. She has total 24 years experience in the area of specialization with finance and accountancy. Dr. Kinnari ma'am is a former principal of SIES College of Commerce and Economics. Ma'am has 5 patents which are granted, from which 2 are published. She also received an academic award from Sydenham College of Commerce and Economics, Golden Jubilee Trust Gold Medal. Also had a government Ghana. Further, ma'am has published 6 books as a co-author, organized 5 international conferences, 9 faculty development programs, 9 webinars, 5 workshops. Also, 1 fresher course sponsored by RUSA and 3 capacity building programs sponsored by ICSSR. She has been chairperson for 50 conferences and seminars, resource person for 200 workshops and webinars. Ma'am has also contributed in NCERT in development of 2 modules as a member of working group committee for development of workbook and handbook for MVEQF. In her 24 years of teaching experience, she was chairperson of Board of Studies in Banking and Finance in University of Mumbai, member of Board and Studies in Accountancy, specialized invite of Board of Studies in Business Management, a co-opted member in SNDT University, Pune University, Bharati Vidyapit University. Also, Vice Chancellor nominee as a subject expert for appointment of teachers in various colleges. She also has external referee for the assessment and viva voce of doctoral thesis of various universities. Ma'am is a MPhil guide in commerce in University of Mumbai, PhD guide in accountancy in University of Mumbai,
Total 5 students have been awarded under her PhD guidance. 11 students have been awarded in MPhil in Commerce. Currently, 5 research scholars are working under the guidance of ma'am for pursuing their PhD, and which has been successfully, ma'am has already completed 4 research projects, 2 funded by ICSSR and 2 funded by University of Mumbai. In editorial board, she was nominated as a member on the editorial board review committee of 10 reputed journal and nominated as a reviewers tax panel member of Intellect-based International Consortium USA. Ma'am has published 55 research papers listed in Scopus, UGC Care, etc. and has presented 74 international national level papers in conferences and seminars. Respected ma'am, by seeing and hearing you about your achievement, we really feel great to have you here with us today. Today, dear participants, we are going to learn more about how to write effective literature review in research in detail. I would request Dr. Kinnari ma'am to please continue further. Thank you so much, ma'am.
As every program has technical problem, we are not apart from the same. Technical problem nahi hoga to kala tika saman hai wo. So in our program also technical problem is there with the resource person's connection. So that's why we will start within 5 minutes. Okay. So please hold back your seats and dive in the ocean of the knowledge just in 5 minutes. Sorry for the same. Welcome, Kinnari ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. One second,
shall
I'll
we
just
start?
open the file.
Okay. Thank you so much, participants, for your patience. We'll just start in a moment now.
Yeah, in just 1 minute, half a second actually.
No issue, ma'am. It's fine.
Power cut, no, every time you have to restart everything.
Yeah, it happens. We all are dependent upon this technology, so everyone knows the problem. No issue with this. there is power failure at the end of the resource person. So she is trying anyway how to connect with us. Let's wait for some time. It may be case with us also in future, right? So let's wait for some time, and then we are going to have rocking session with ma'am, as she is going to take us in the ocean of knowledge. So let's wait for her. And so sorry for the inconvenience caused. Thank you so much, Meena ma'am, for making me aware about the audio. Uh, I have already done it the way you told, and we are going on towards our session soon. Thank you all for your patience. We'll be starting soon.
Am I audible? नहीं यार, आवाज नहीं आ रहा है स्पीकर के बिना. हेलो, am I audible? मुझे समझेगा नहीं ना. सूर्यकांत सुना?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, the only thing is that, friends, here we don't have a webcam. I've come to another building, and there's no webcam. So what I will have to do is I will show everything, and then last we will give one session for session for question answers. That's okay. So now immediately I will start. And if you have anything, you can type on chat box so that I can give you answers to that. अब इसमें शेयरिंग का ऑप्शन क्यों नहीं दिखा रहा है? हाँ, शेयर स्क्रीन दिखा रहा है. थैंक गॉड. क्या फ्रस्ट्रेटिंग. पंखा नहीं चाहिए. मेरे को नहीं चाहिए पंखा. Okay. Able, you are able to see with screen?
Yes, ma'am, your screen
Review
is
of,
visible.
fine. Okay, now fatafat I will start. Okay, so good morning, friends. We are going to start with the topic of review of literature, and in review of literature, what all important points we have to do, that I will be covering. क्या स्क्रीन है? हिल भी नहीं रहा है ये. ओके, ये चालू नहीं है, शायद माउस का इश्यू है. ओके, सो what we are going to do today is we are going to cover the practical approach of doing review of literature. Normally, whenever you approach your guide, whenever you intend to start any research work, the first point which you have to note is, identification of, first of all, is to decide a title. So I am assuming that yesterday's session would have covered about the title and how the entire initial stages of research the research has to be initiated. That I'm assuming you have done. So now when you freeze one title, and before while freezing the title, you have a lot of questions in your mind, and to find out the solution to that, you need to do review of literature. So this becomes the first stage. So technically, review of literature has 3 stages. The first stage of review of literature, actually 2 stages. The third one is just for facing the viva voce. So we are not covering that stage right now. We are just covering up to the time the thesis has to be printed and submitted. That is the second stage. So first stage will be to identify the research gap. Okay, so this is the research gap, and you're going to identify that. Now, when you are identifying the research gap, you need to review a lot of literature related to the area and the topic which you have selected. While reviewing the literature, 4 important points you have to keep on noting. What happens that when you start your research work and by the time you end, more or less there is 4.5 years gap. So by the time you face your viva voce, you should be thorough with whatever you have initiated, whatever you have started, you should be thorough with that. So in the beginning, if you are not very systematic in recording whatever reading you have done, in writing whatever points you have noted down, whatever points you have understood, then it becomes really difficult, a challenging task to face with confident the final stage, the viva was open defense, and convince the referee, external experts, that this is the reason why the topic has been chosen. So there are some standard questions which are asked in the open defense. That first question you will have, that what was the research gap, why did you choose this topic, and what was the research gap. So convincing answer should be given for research gap. And when you want to give this convincing answer, the day one you start with your research work, you have to mention, you have to note down all the points which you have read. And for noting down all the points, this is a kind of a format wherein if you record in this particular format, it will be very easy last minute reference for you. So the format has these 5 columns. One is the title which you have referred, the author, and the publication. See, when you review the one book, if you say, for example, you are reading one book, it is like 200 pages, some books all are 400 pages, some are 80 pages. So it's very confusing that how many pages you should read, what portion you should cover, what part you should actually focus on, because and it's frankly speaking not really possible to go through 80 books articles, which is a minimum requirement for review of literature. Okay, 70 to 80 is the minimum. Plus that depends on what is your title, but minimum 70-80. Now you imagine 70-80 if you books, if you start reading, and how you're going to remember what you have read in the 70-80 books. So right from day one you prepare, use this template, use this format for noting down important points which you are going to which you're maybe going to, which is going to help you in giving a convincing answer for any stage of your research. So first is you will write down the title, you'll write down the author and the publication year. Why this is important? If you're nowadays, most of them you are doing it on through internet, using internet at physically going to the library, e-sources and e-books you are going to use. Physically going to and visiting the library at times may not be convenient if you have a lot of good remote access to from your for any of the library which you have subscribed. I think it will be very easy and convenient for you to record maybe give more time to your research work. So whether you are using remote type access or whether you are actually physically going to the library, this template is going to help you to remember what you are what you have read, also at the same time to find out the identify the research gap. So publication is, if you are doing using internet sources, you have to tie the link, you have to copy along with the date, the access date, that which date you have accessed this article, because at times if the articles has been removed from the site, then it will be very difficult for you to again in case if you want to refer anything, or if you want to give some convincing answer at that time, you should be very well prepared. So you should write down the date at which you have accessed this article and the link of that article. So author, publication and date. Third important point is the variables used. So what you do is you do not read everything. You can skip the just 5 important points of introduction you can read. You can skip later part, detailed introduction you may not write. You can just note down the author and the publication. Then you can directly go to the variables and the models applied in the book. Any book which you are referring, what are the models applied? Now see, technology acceptance model is one model which was used in maybe from last one decade. It is been used. Now there is a modification of the technology acceptance model. So in this modification,
Kinnari ma'am,
हाँ जी,
sorry to disturb you,
बोलो ना,
ma'am.
बोलो. हाँ,
Yeah, ma'am, slides are not moving.
not
Is it so
moving.
you are? Yeah.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll try to do that without. This is, I have come to a department and I've come from another office, small office, other building.
Okay,
So
no issue.
their PC may not be so updated. Okay, right now what
Yeah,
slide you can see?
second number, it is template of
हाँ.
ROL stage 1.
Yeah. So what is happening now? If I'm doing slideshow, now slide is not moving, so update nahi hai computer. So I'm not doing slides, so this will be okay. No, you can read. No.
Yeah, we can read. So
Fine.
whatever, like on whichever point you are, no?
हाँ,
Like,
that I will. Yeah, I will highlight that. That I'll do.
okay.
Fine. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry, ma'am.
No
Yeah.
problem. I am sorry. Actually, this all power failure and all
Alright,
made
no
everything
issue,
difficult.
ma'am.
Yeah.
It
But
is
I'm trying my
technical error.
best that 1 hour में सबको review of literature एकदम perfect idea समझ में आ जाए. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it is technical error, not your
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. So this is a template which I thought that I was showing you, and I was telling you that this is a template. See the template. Okay. Title, author and publication. Then you have to write the models and the variables used. So directly research methodologies chapter or is any thesis, if you are referring for your as a review of literature, you can directly go through the models and the variables which are used. So which models you note down for every reference work you have done, you note down that. It may take some time, but it will give a glance, and at a glance you will be able to search, or you'll be able to put through your research review which you have done and give a convincing research gap. what is the scope of the study? The study was covered, geographical scope, or maybe scope may be related to, it may be related to the number of years of study, whatever, the duration, the time, the period, and the findings. What are the final findings and conclusions? If you note this 4-5 points of any book which you are referring, it will be very, very easy for you to find out that variables, 50 books you are referring, different variables are used. As you go on reading, you will realize and you may understand that, okay, this also can be a part of, this variable also can be added, because with the change in technology, with the change in the entire landscape of how the business and how the entire all these sectors are functioning, because integration of technology, digitalization has changed the landscape of everything. So while this landscape has changed, there are so many variables which can be added in your research work. So when you have a glance, third column, if you see this third column, the third column will tell you ye sare variables use hue. Okay, so these are all variables. Now you can add your variables, and even if you have one or two variables, if you which you feel you have added, that becomes your research gap, that this is the research gap. And now these past studies are done on the basis of using these variables, but now my study, what is new in your study? That's another question which will be asked, that what new, what novelty in your study, what will be the utility of your study? Is it going to be only on a shelf of a library and your research center, or it is really going to have some work? Okay, so again, you don't have to take much stress. When you are doing something like PhD in the beginning, you may not have a very great utility of your research work. But post PhD, if you are doing something like project, major, minor, whatever, then you will be able to understand. So it's like, unless you do your PhD, you never understand what PhD is and how to go about the PhD. You are just listening to everybody, discussing with peer group, discussing with guides, discussing with the coursework, in the coursework sessions and like this workshops, you discuss with everybody, and then you go on doing that. At the end, you will realize after doing your research work, this is how I should have done. And that time also you will feel that this would have been better, that would have been better, this I missed over this part, I would have taken these variables, then maybe the output would have been better. But that all thoughts you have to stop. You have to just focus on what you have done, because you have limited time and limited resources, and within that limited time and limited resources only, you'll have to give out some good work. So reading your third column, you'll be able to understand what is a research gap. And once you are done with your research gap, you identify a proper research gap, the confidence level in you really will shoot up, and you will be able to maybe come out with some new ideas. You may be able to explore some new ideas and new suggestions and conclusions. So scope, duration, time, again, a research gap also will have scope, which you can be take as a part of research gap, that certain studies are conducted in these geographical areas, but my study is conducted in this particular area, and this particular new variable had been added, and the time duration of the study differs. So then finally, your answer to the question of what is your new thing, what is new in your research, is this, that my research has new variable, new geographical limit, new time duration or time, and that's the reason. And with new kind of framework, or with the new changing landscape, and this is how the final output and the outcome of the result is different and novel compared to what has been done in the past. Okay, so this is what your first stage of review of literature is. First stage of review of literature means what you are actually doing. You are not writing the second chapter. I hope that everybody has read a thesis, and in thesis every format is different, but at least there's one chapter full which is review of literature. Most of them have second chapter as review of literature. First chapter is introduction, second chapter is review of literature. If you see the US and the other foreign countries model, they have a 5-step model of writing research work. 5-step model means first they will have research introduction, then review of literature, then they will have all the research methodology. This is the third chapter they have, what methodology, technique, sampling, design that it has been used by them. Fourth will be the data analysis and interpretation. And finally, fifth chapter will be findings, conclusions, suggestions. Okay, so many of them they give recommendations. Again, why recommendations should not be given and suggestions should be given? Recommendation means what? If you have been officially appointed by a body to do a research work, you are recommending them. Okay, if you are a party, we have this NAC committee which is visiting, we have LIC committees which is visiting. What they do, they are officially properly committee which is properly constructed. So if they have, because they have an authority, and when you have an authority and you are a part of a properly formed committee, then you can give recommendations. Otherwise, you have to give suggestions. Nobody has appointed you in as a person in research, in your research thesis. So recommendation should not be given, suggestion should be given. So last chapter, so five step model, I explained it to you for writing your research work. So your duration again plays a very important role in finding out the research gap. And the last part here is, if you are using direct statements, like if you are using something on, you're doing something on digital marketing, you are writing the definitions which are existing in the digital marketing. That digital marketing according to Mr. X means this, according to Ms. Y means this. It is not your statement. So what you are doing, you are using direct statements. So those direct statements should not be a part of plagiarism. And therefore you have to put it in inverted commas. Okay, you have to put it like quotations, and then you have to give proper references and at the end, and then bibliography towards the end of the thesis. So when you are putting into inverted commas and quotations, and when the plagiarism software will highlight that, and you have, the person has the rights to remove that from the plagiarism thing, they have the control that those, everything which is in inverted commas and which is also capturing the plagiarism software sometimes captures the word like digital marketing. If because your research is digital marketing, and again every time you have written digital marketing, it will be captured in the plagiarism software. So there's a way, a control where these inverted commas and these standard common statements and formats that can be removed from from the highlighted or the captured phrases, statements. So that's the reason why it is better always that whenever you are writing direct statements, you always write it in the form of in the quotations, and then proper give references. So then your 50% of your work for preparing a good research proposal ends. Now, from the above table, researcher can identify research gaps. What do you mean by research gaps? Just one brief, in brief, I'll explain once again. Scope of the study can be research gap variables, the models applied. Now for financial, you have so many models. You have Sharpe and Trainer index ratios, and then you have, mutual fund performance ke liye, you have so many models. In economics, econometrics, you have so many models. In marketing, in technology acceptance models, which I said. So these are the different models, and how your models and your variables differ from the other work which has been done in the past. So for stage 1, now you will conclude your stage 1. Your stage 1 is focusing only on writing your main identification of your research gap while writing the proposal. You have not started writing your research thesis. You're only writing your proposal. So your conclusion will be what was done, how it was done, and what were the findings and conclusion of the work which you have reviewed. What was done, how, and most of these will be covered in the template which I have shown. And findings and conclusions, in addition to that, for every work you are reviewing, you can just mention it again, what is the findings and conclusion. So your stage 1 template will give you a bird's eye view of the entire review of literature work which you have done. Then we'll come to the stage 2. When the stage 2 work starts, the stage 2 will start when your research title has been decided, your research gap has been identified, your proposal has been prepared, and your registration process has begun. Almost your registration has been done, and then now you are starting your committees has recommend, say that your title is proper and your registration should be done. The committee has given that, issued that letter, and then after that you will start with the stage 2, that is a review of literature. This stage 2 is when you are writing your black book, when you start writing your actual thesis. Never start with the introduction. Introduction means you have to just give the brief of your title which you have identified, and after that you have to wait till your other chapters are also done, so your research methodology is finalized. But then sometimes what happens, when you start your work, you realize, oh, these points I should have covered, these points I should have added, and there are so many things which are churning in your mind. So at that point of time, you can again keep on changing your introduction. So when our student comes and says that, we have done with the first chapter introduction, uh, that means they have not done anything, frankly. But it's not good for us to tell directly to them. No, so I said, oh, that's really good, but you have to continue with that, and then you need to change your introduction as and when you keep on updating yourself, because 2 and 3 years journey this is. So you need to keep on updating and changing your introduction. So that's the reason why you never start with review of never start with introduction, and never say that the introduction chapter is over, because introduction chapter will be over only at the end. Once your conclusions and recommendation and suggestions are done, only then you'll have to fine tune and again polish the introduction chapter, and only then your thesis will end. So though we say it as a first chapter, it ends only at the end, and then it's actually the last chapter which you should complete while you start writing your thesis. That all, when you practically do, maybe you will be able to understand that. So how to conduct the review of literature for stage 2? Stage 1 was what? Only identification of research gap. Once your gap is identified, now you have to focus only in that direction. So now you have to start writing review of literature. Now for writing review of literature, if you know that we have to write paragraphs. And when you have to write at least one paragraph of each book which you have read, you'll have a specific style of writing. So we are discussing here what is the style of writing this review of literature. So you have to read specific parts of the articles in your field of study. You have to find out the most suitable ones by measuring their value and finding out how influential they are. Now, these are the points, but I'll tell you practically all this, how we have to do this. Okay, but I will give you a glance of how the ROL is done, and then we'll also understand how the ROL has to be written. So examine the parts which include introduction section. It has sentence or two about the reasons why that research is done. So when you are reading the book, start with the introduction of that book. Start with reading the introduction of that book, the book which you are reading. Okay, if you are reading one book of your area, you read the introduction and you read why this research is done. That point you have to read. If you have time, interest and time, you can note down also these points. That review of literature start karne se pehle start with introduction, and then start with why that research has been done, so that you can also again convincingly say that why your research has been done, why you are doing research. You need to have come out with your good language also. It's like, don't try to just be normal like others. When you try to have one level, one notch higher, then you will end up doing like others. So okay, so if you know what, you understand what I'm trying to say. Always try to aim high, give good language, give good not a normal English or a normal tech words. Come out with some good alternative statements and good words. Use so nowadays you have in search engines also, they'll give you so many antonyms and synonyms and everything, and try to search and find out use some good language. So again, you have to read what research they have done, and you can start writing that. While facing your vivavas, you can say that, oh, this was the terms, these are the good words which are used. Maybe I can also use these while answering to the in front of the open defense. Then what you are doing, you are examining the conclusion and suggestions of the future research section. every book they have, like every research which we do, you have a future scope of future work. What are the future research which you can carry on? From that future research suggestions which they have given, you can, that from one thread you can take and link it to your research, that okay, that was the future suggestions, and that also can be a part of your research gap. Okay, other person's future scope of further research or future research suggestions, other persons can be a part of your research gap, and that research gap you are trying to fulfill. Similarly, you can say that my research was done in this area, but in future these scopes, these other variables might can be also used, so that can be becomes a part of some other person's research work. So that is how the continuation of research goes on, but you have to understand and do it smartly. That review of literature, if you are doing, what points you are focusing in 300 pages, what point you have to identify, and what point will help you in finding the research gap and give you some good convincing words and for your research presentation. So this you identify. Suggestions, scope of further research or suggestions for future research, and that also you can take it as a part of your research gap. And maybe you can add some more variables in your, if your research gap is already decided, then you can add certain important area or variables in your research work which you are conducting. Then you have to read systematic reviews. Okay, you have to delve deep into the literature and examine the trends and changes in the discipline. You have to read content analysis, citation, meta-analysis if there is any. Identify key concepts and keywords. If any article, published articles or papers you are reading, then you identify what are the key concepts and what are the keywords. From the keywords also, if you just type the keywords, you can get so many different connected articles, and from that also you can add more value to your research work, especially to your introduction chapter and your review of literature chapter. So that will really help you in building up your pages. 400 300 to 400 pages are recommended, and in that at least some 40 to 50 pages are to be devoted to your review of literature. So 40-50 pages you have to analyze, you have to write, and on that 40-50 pages which you have written, that only builds up your entire gamut of your knowledge which you have to portray, which you have to pen down in your black book. So if you are understanding that very sincerely, systematically, only then your 300 pages will come out very different, and something innovative, and maybe something which has more novelty in the work. So these are the way, different sites and all that I'm not discussing, because everybody knows that now you have different websites, and how the research work can be done using books and remote access and etc. So basically, what is the purpose of the review of literature? It will be help you to focus on the research question. It will also help you to develop hypothesis. It will help you to ensure all relevant variables are identified, and to allow comparison of your findings with those of others' findings. So this is the most important part of your review of literature, that it will help you to compare your findings with others' finding. What are the sources? Then past thesis papers, journals, etc., conference papers. This all is okay. Working papers of government organizations and others institutions. This is the point which you note down. The big fours and the government organizations, they all come out with working papers which are at times not published, but which is available on their websites. It is not published maybe in the open domain, but in their website it is published. Like it's not available in the library and others other as a e-resource, but try to find out these papers. Many important points you can identify. You can some new variables maybe will come out with these working papers if you are referring. So working papers is very important source and very authentic source. Sites, if you see who is publishing, with what authority the person has to publish newspapers, on what basis, what is the trustworthiness of the paper, of the material which is available on websites, that becomes a question mark. Okay, so working papers will help you in all this. Working papers and of institutions and government organizations are very authentic. You can refer to the UN's all these international organizations publications also. It will help you in getting authentic sources and resources, authentic data source and authentic resources and material. So while you are assessing the literature, you should know the source, you should know the author, you should know what they have published. If any work is published in the similar area, if there is a that work has been referred with by somebody. Okay, so citations are very important. How many times the citations of that particular statement, if you have more number of citations, means the popularity of that article and is more, so you can quote such articles. Whether it is a recent article, whether it has been superseded by other articles, that also you need to find out. Writing the review of literature. The literature review should start with an introduction, identifying the topic under investigation and providing a context for the review. It should be followed by the main body where the literature is reviewed. Okay, now our actual work, practical work of review of literature starts. What are we going to do practically? Practically, we are going to start writing. While you are reviewing the literature, your first word starts with author. Say author X and Y. Okay, they determined, they evaluated, or whatever, he or she, the author X, evaluated, compared, they've established co-relationship, they've analyzed, measured, examined, they found, studied, identified, suggested, presented, investigated, illustrated. Which of these you find, you can take a screenshot right now or copy or whatever, which of these best suits the review, the book which you are referring? Which of this? In some, it may be investigation. The authors have investigated into different, they have explored, they have evaluated. Okay, so your first line of review of literature should start with these verbs. Sharma and Verma analyzed, identified. Okay. Then you have one minute. Huh? Just 1 second. I wanted to show you some slide which I'm not able to see here. So in 2 minutes, I will show you. Okay. So this was the verbs. The other thing is language. How can you indicate a move from a general to a more specific context? So your topic is, say, financial inclusion, financial literacy or financial inclusion. So you want to explain financial inclusion. You want to explain financial inclusion of one particular state. You don't want to explain the entire countries or the entire concept of financial inclusion, which is prevalent in the country in India. You want to explain it only in one particular state. So how will you link that? See, most of our studies are done it not on a broader perspective. Most of these PhD theses are not covering the entire country. Most basically they are focusing on their area, this a selected area, Karnataka, Maharashtra, or some part of districts of Maharashtra, Gujarat, whatever you have identified. So you have to link from the general to a more specific context. So how do you link that? So you have to link by using connectors of concession, that these are the models or these are the variables of financial inclusion as defined by the government site and government publications. However, say suppose financial inclusion, if you want to do, there are say 10 variables. Government gov.in pe financial inclusion ka website pe you will see there are a lot of information which is given. So they have said 10 variables. But if you are doing it for the state of Maharashtra, it is not possible for you to cover all 10. It may not be feasible. At the same time, it may not be suitable. There are certain variables which are unique, which are not suitable to all the states, which are not feasible also because of limitation of time and not suitable. So what you will do, out of 10 variables, you will focus say on the most 5 variables which you feel is more suiting to your state of Maharashtra. So you will say that as defined by the government, 10 variables are a part of the are well defined by the in the financial inclusion. Sorry, there are 10 variables which can define financial inclusion. However, our study is focusing only on 5 variables. Then you will have to explain those 5 variables, and those 5 variables, what that will be called as operational definition. Okay, see, operational definition again is a different term. I will say my study is on financial inclusion in the state of Maharashtra. So I have framed a title like this: a study on financial inclusion in the state of Maharashtra. Now when I say the word financial inclusion, I can see here 85 participants. 85 may say everybody will understand these financial inclusion in a different way. For all 85, do you feel that everybody will understand, all 85 will have the understanding of financial inclusion in the same form? No. So as a researcher, I have to explain it to you that according to this research work, as a researcher, financial inclusion means point 1, 2, 3. 2 or 3, don't give so much of long definition. Say maximum 3 points includes banking, number of banks in the particular area, okay, penetration of insurance services in a particular area, and maybe use of financial products. These are the 3 points. So I will say, though the broader term of financial inclusion is this, for the present research work, however, for the present research work, the financial inclusion term is defined as follows. Okay, number of banking, 3 points which I told that you have to write. Same thing, like this you have to represent. While the definition covers these points, our definition is restricted to this. So every review of literature which you are doing, you have to connect it with your research work, and you have to use it connectors of concession such as while, but, yet. Other most important point while you are doing review of literature is you should avoid using the terms which you should avoid using while review of literature is sarcasm. Do not really be very satirical or very critical. Like you have to be very sober even if you don't agree to some points. So you can say that this, according to the author, this was fine, but however we feel that this another variable would have been better for giving in case if you want to criticize. First of all, do not criticize. If you feel there's that work deserves criticism, just leave that aside and start searching some new paper or some new article or book. But even if sometimes if you wish to do it in a critical way, then you can just use it in a very simple, sober, without giving any satirical remark. You can just portray and write your statements in a very simple and a manner which is not, which does not mean sarcasm. Second is paradox. Paradox means what? A statement which will appear, which will contradict itself. So do not try to give such statements in your thesis work that will contradict their the own work. So do not use these two opposite words at the same time, which is a contradictory statement. Oxymoron. Oxymoron will be what? A phrase that combines two words that seem to be opposite to each other. So if you say something like it is awfully good, that is a talking language, the way which you can express yourself, but that's not a writing language. So you cannot say something like that. It is definite. This is a definite possibility. If you use a word like this, definite possibility. So what do you understand by the term definite possibility as a reader? While talking, slang words or slang terms at times are allowed, but while writing, you are not allowed. So suppose if you say the author had the only choice of, so only choice, again word, these terms are also not expected and not should be avoided while writing your review of literature. Then you have pleonasm. Pleonasm means you have to you are using more words than it is required. Like if you say that in case if you are observing, if your research is based on observation, and you are writing that a researcher was observed this with the researchers with his own eyes. No need. It's not a film or something which you have to exaggerate, and your language which you have to say a drama. You don't have to write these words like I saw it with my own eyes. Or if you're telling something like in literature also, kick it with your feet. If you say kick it, it obviously means that it has to be with the feet. It cannot be with anything. So if you're writing to or pleonasm also, you have to avoid, like you are writing exaggerating statements. So for thesis work, exaggeration is not expected. And then last is tautology. Tautology means you have a sense of saying the exact same in different words. Like I said that I am going to take lecture at 11 a.m. in the morning. So I am saying that my lecture is going to start at 11 a.m. in the morning. If you are saying 11 a.m., it will obviously mean that it is morning. I have read so many theses, like this, where these types of statements are included. And that's what I thought that, while all these participants here, before they start writing, because see, we are not harsh critic many times. That's why, things can be taken easily. But in certain countries and in certain books, articles which you are publishing, ABDC journals and all, such kind of languages are not allowed. In our universities at time, I don't know, I cannot say, but yeah, theek hai, jaane do, that's okay. But you're not here for this jaane do, theek hai and chalta hai type. You are here for something better and for doing something much, much different than what others are doing. And if you feel that you want to do something different and better, then you have to be very, very perfect in whatever things you are doing. So these are the terms you have to avoid. ABDC journal mein, if you see, there are point to point, cut to cut, the word statements, every word meaning comma will have its relevance and importance, without which they are not going to allow. They'll resend for changes, modifications. Send it for modification, again you have to send and tell them to check. Again it will be reviewed, again it will be referred back to you, modify this and then resend. So to avoid all this, in the beginning only you can start with the work, systematic work, and try to do any writing, not only ROL, but all the entire thesis writing you can try to do using all these, avoiding all these words. Okay, so now here we are here with the template of the stage 2 of review of literature. Stage 1 and stage 2 minor difference you have, but content wise you will have more in stage 2. template ka overall broad type, this heading will be the same, but the content in stage 2 will be in depth, because we are writing the full chapter of review of literature. So you have title, author and publication. There we had title separate and author and publication was a separate column, but here you have title, author and publication, objectives and hypothesis. So what are the objectives and what are the hypotheses? Variables and models, again, scope, duration, time period, etc. And now you are going to write here conclusions, which are including hypotheses, whether accepted and rejected. So in the stage 1, we were not focusing on hypothesis, accept, reject. Why? Because we were just finding out our research gap. And for finding out research gap, we don't need hypothesis, accept, reject, everything. But here in stage 2, you have to write hypothesis, accepted and rejected, because you are going to give a abstract, a brief of what work has been done by the research, by the book, the author of the book which you are referring. The information in the above table can be converted into paragraph form and it written as a chapter or a section as ROL. So when you are writing ROL, what is ROL? It means you are writing all this, these and all these table is converted into a paragraph. In so many universities, ROL is written in the tabular form also. In many of the universities I have seen, they are permitting ROL to be written in the tabular form. But in good reputed journals and many other broad universities, they are not permitting like this. They have the ROL has to be in the form of the paragraph. The variables used by the researcher were gender, age, education, familiarity with internet. Okay, this is an example. Okay. So the variables used, okay, the variables, these are the variables, examples I've given. What are the variables? They can have education, familiarity with internet usage, internet for banking, for shopping, etc. Now, again, there's one more important point which I thought, which is not a part of review of literature, but I thought I should tell you that your sample size. Again, the question, third important question of your open defense will be, what was your sample size and how did you decide the sample size? So the convincing answer here, sometimes you say my sample size was 500, 800, 1000, round figures, etc. So that does not sound more convincing. You have to say that we have done sample size on the basis of, there are two different ways of finding out the sample size from the population. One is using the sample size formula and another is the minimum sample size. Sample size should be 10 times the number of variables. So 10 into the number of variables. So sir, if your variables here is say 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then that means your minimum sample size for that research work can be 50. 10 into number of variables. That is also one ROL. From one ROL only I am telling you that I had reviewed a book, one book, and wherein all these information about the sampling techniques and sample size was given, and that book said that this is one of the important sample size way of deciding your sample size. So that is, you can say that either of that we have used a sample size formula, and as per the formula the minimum size was so and so. So I tried to collect samples at more than that, so that if you are doing more samples and the conclusions drawn can be given, can be a more, just anytime your high sample will always give more accurate conclusions. Then whether test was applied, all this you have to say. The author has found a strong correlation for area of the study, period of the study. All these things you can put it in one paragraph and that becomes the writing of your review of literature. Now in practical example, I'm showing you that how to write a literature in thesis or a paper. This is how you have to write it. So here the first example is say Mehra and Sinha. Again, and this is ampersand. That is one, again, a style of writing. So how do you write that? There are different APA style and MLA style and all these. So in that also which is the style which is accepted by the university or by the research paper. Why you have to write this ampersand and not A and D? That depends on which style is accepted by the university. Okay, so Mehra and Sinha, say into bracket 2014, this was the year, found that. Okay, so you have to connect with like this: found, examined, explored, identified. E-payment system in India has drastically grown in the recent years, but still a lot to be done to increase its usage. The study was conducted in which region? Okay, so the study was conducted. What all point you have to write? The first point you have to write is what is the study all about? The study is all about the e-payment system. Then the study is conducted where? In which area? What was the sample size? Sample size was this. The study, in the study conducted, it was found that. Then what are the finding? Final to find 5 to 10 important findings. You can take that. These are the major findings. That 90% of the transactions are cash based. Which model was used to study? So I have highlighted all statements in different colors. If you see important, everything when then there's a transition, I've highlighted in a different color. Technology acceptance model was used. What did the study find? Well, found that certain factors like innovation, incentive, customer convenience, and legal are major factors that contribute to the enhancement of e-payment system in India. You can write more than this if you feel, but this paragraph also is enough and it will give you the hint of what your work is all about. Now, if you read this much, are you able to understand what is the book all about? What is the book all about? And what is the thing which are there? You can add hypothesis if you want. You can add what kind of objectives, simple objectives was used, and you can make it at least half a page, one review. There's no limit, there's no standard format on how to write a review of literature. Then you can see this second example. Sharma in his research examined the problems faced by the developing countries like India in adoption of e-banking system. The study identified problems such as low dissemination of information technology. The research emphasized the major problems such as security concerns, privacy, rules, regulations, management. Then further you can add what the what the author has mentioned. In developing country like India, there is a foremost risk of emergence of a digital split as the underprivileged and technologically challenged are excluded from the internet usage and so from the financial system. Okay, so this was the earlier research, 2014. See, now it's almost 2024. Now if you see the landscape, financial system ka landscape has changed. The penetration of technology has changed. So what was the future search for them becomes the present work for you, becomes a research gap for you, for your work. So this was the research gap, that this was the conclusion. So 2018 may you could have come out with some more additions to this analysis. So this is our review of literature. So I hope you understand when you are writing review of literature, you know how you are supposed to write the review of literature. What basically my purpose today is to make you focus on what make you understand the what important focus, the points which you have to mention in the review of literature. Okay, now we'll come to almost the second last part of review of literature, writing the review of literature. The other question which comes up is which books to read, which books you feel are relevant to your research work. So for that, you have to categorize your studies. Your studies will be categorized into the study which involves broader aspects of your research work, study which involves related aspects of your research work, and the study which involves similar aspects of your research work. Now, all these three you have to classify. If your studies is, suppose example, if your studies is related to comparison of Amazon and Flipkart, if you want to compare Amazon and Flipkart, what should be the ROL? in terms of this, in terms of broader, related, and similar. Okay, so first of all is what is Amazon and Flipkart? Basically, e-commerce companies. So when you are studying the broader aspects, you have to cover everything related to e-commerce companies. So which aspects? Legal aspects, ethical issues, e-commerce and logistics, security issues, and growth of e-commerce in India. All this becomes the broader. See, nowhere we are writing Amazon and Flipkart. Nowhere we are studying concepts and studies, past studies related to Amazon and Flipkart. We are only doing studies related to the broader aspect, which is e-commerce. Studies involving related aspects. Now, business is conducted, so you can have related aspects like trends in the e-commerce, business to B2B, B2C, B2B2C. These all are again related to how the business is conducted in e-commerce, and that will give you some important points related to your functioning of the e-commerce sector. Studies involving similar aspects. So now suppose similar aspects, if you want to do, if you want to identify, then you can identify certain studies which has been done, which is related to similar thing. That is like Snapdeal and Myntra. Okay, the both are having almost the same kind of. They are also e-commerce platforms. Google Pay and Paytm, very popular. Both are very popular. Again, e-commerce platforms, but different platforms. But they have their own the same kind of variables. Functioning of the business, so, and the logistics part and everything, similar kind of variables are similar kind of system of functioning is adopted in all e-commerce forms of business. Then you can have studies if anything is done related to this, Ola, Uber. So this can be a part of your similar aspects. So again, I'm just showing you once. Basically, what you have to cover: broader, related, and similar. Broader means think your study is about what? Amazon and Flipkart. Amazon and Flipkart, what are these? Okay, which will give you a broader aspect answer. These are e-commerce companies, so you need legal, ethical, logistic. Again, you can add logistics also. I have not added here, but logistic is that's the most important thing in e-commerce. You place an order, and how, from where, from Gurgaon and from this and that other place, the product is reaching you within no time. Related and similar. So you can take important points, important variables from these studies, similar studies, important variables you can take. So this is how your entire ROL at a glance. Now, what are the mistakes which are often made in the review of literature? So now we are coming towards the end almost, that what mistakes are made in the review of literature. Making the review simply a list of past studies or producing an annotated bibliography. You are not able to identify the core of that study. You are just reading it and you are writing it, without identifying what point the author wants to say, what is the work of the author. That if you are not able to do, then that means you are just past study ka, you're just writing it in a simple way. You have to read between the lines at time, and you have to understand what you are reading rather than just putting it on penda, writing it as a paragraph. Not relating the literature review to the study and making it simply a general review of the subject matter. So you're not relating it to the study. Now, if I want to show you, my study was about e-commerce and e-payments or whatever, then I have to link this relating to the work. Say, for example, if I say technology acceptance model is used, now there is a modified technology acceptance model, so I will link it that Mehra and Sinha has used technology acceptance model and factors like innovation and customer convenience. So this can be broadened and modified in the present study. So you are linking your work with relating your work with the context of your present study. You are not just doing it, reading and then reading and put it as a part of your review of literature chapter. No, you are connecting all the books which you have, points which you have read 80 books or articles, journals, and from every point, article, journal, it is possible, it may not be possible, but at least from 40 to 50% of the articles and journals, it is possible for you to link it with your present work. So you're linking that. Not taking time to identify the best sources, and you are giving overemphasis on weak or less important sources. So you have an ocean of resources in front of you. From that ocean, you should pick up the pearls, that which pearl is important for and relevant to your study. You tend up picking up pebbles, it will be not be of any help to you. So that is very important, that you have to have that kind of insight and capacity, that you are able to identify the best sources which are available from the ocean of resources, which are can be linked and related to your review of literature. And failing to appreciate the relevant wider literature. If there are topics like, if you see mutual funds, now you see there are unlimited publications in mutual funds. You count, and every university have come out with at least 50 different way of analyzing the mutual funds performance. So but in that, you should again identify that there is a wide literature, but in that wide literature, which is going to be the most important and helpful, and which will help you explore new areas in mutual fund or cooperative societies, where again women empowerment. If you see, oh, women empowerment ke liye, I think there's no university who has not done the work on university on women empowerment, entrepreneurship and women empowerment, work life balance. Okay, so there are so many topics which have been covered already by majority of the universities, but from that you will have to identify which best suits your work, and which will help you give different angle for in your work. Relying on secondaries rather than primary sources. Now this again depends purely on your title. If some title is such that you have to take only primary sources, some may not be, for some topics primary sources may not be possible. Like if you want to do corporate social responsibilities, no, majority of the time, and if you want to analyze balance sheets, so you'll have to take published work, published publications which are there in the balance sheet. So that again depends on the topic title which you have selected. Uncritically accepting the findings. You should not be harsh and criticize it, but you can critically think, and you can evaluate things. Critically thinking, nobody can stop your critical thinking. Criticizing is not important, critical thinking is important. So your review of literature, if you are thinking in a critical way, then you can come out with new research gap or explore something new. Not considering contrary findings and alternative interpretations. So there is an alternative interpretation, there's a contrary finding, especially in the social science research. This all plays a very important role. So this is the mistakes. These are the common mistakes which are often made in the review of literature. Now, how do I know that if I have completed my review of literature? According to me, I feel that I've done 70 books. Does it mean that I've completed the literature? No, there are so many other publications. Have you seen the latest, the contemporary topics and the relevant topics related to your work? So you have to ask yourself, have I covered the key literature? Is the literature review up to date? Latest current trends? Have I covered recent sources? Do I relate that literature to my research question? Have I included literature that contradicts as well as supports my viewpoint? Have I produced a critical assessment rather than a descriptive review? Have I organized the review into a logical and a coherent structure rather than simply producing a list of literature? Have I identified the gaps, weakness in the existing literature? And does my research question emerge clearly from the literature? So these are the questions you have to ask, and then you will be able to say that, yeah, I have, according to my own satisfaction or knowledge, I feel I've completed my review of literature. And we will end up with this last summary about review of literature. You have to develop your own expertise in the subject at an early stage in the research process through locating, reading, and reviewing relevant literature. The written review of literature forms an important part of your written report. Okay, that's a full chapter, so you have to write it in a very systematic way. It becomes an important part of your report. Do not restrict yourself. Broaden your search at the beginning and be prepared to seek different sources. Gradually focus your review towards your particular research objectives. Relate your review to your own research question. Existing literature may provide you with existing data with which you can achieve your research objectives. So the research is not just reading and noting, but a critical appraisal to find out the gaps in the research. It is a SWOT analysis of your research. Then you can have references, citation. Citation is a must. Acknowledging others' work, referring to them individually, and using a direct quotation. Then these are the reference styles, but the reference styles actually has full session. You know, there can be a full 1-2 hour session on referencing style, but in just I have kept here these for your information, that is the Harvard style system, APA style, and MLA style. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And now the forum is open for question answers. In case if you have any questions, we have time to cover up the question answer session. I will stop sharing it. Unfortunately, I don't have camera here. So of course, AI tools nowadays, that's what being contemporary is, that only you have to use AI tools for review of literature. So there are so many softwares also which are available. But these softwares, what they do is they cover only the published literature, which is in Scopus and the reviewed journal. Scopus and journals publications only these softwares are covering, because software what we will do from the internet, they will identify, they will search. So internet pe liye they should have published, no, uploaded in the on the site, only then it will be help giving you the access to that. So not all review of literature, comprehensive review of literature cannot be done with these softwares which are available. ROL ke liye with softwares are available. No, comprehensive work cannot be done with these softwares. AI tools ke liye, no friends, there is a full systematic way. There is a systematic review of review of literature. Uske liye I'll have to show the software and everything. So for that, it's like, it's not just a 1 minute or 2 minute thing suggestion. I'll have to show that this is the site which you can access, and from that you can use the AI these are the entire, you will have to download extensions. There are certain extensions, Chrome extensions, which you can download, and from that also you will be able to do ROI using AI tools. So you have to first download these extensions. Thank you so much, Dr. Vikas.
Participants can unmute and ask the questions, or they can post it in chat box. Ma'am, there is one question in the chat box. How to avoid plagiarism in literature review?
See, avoid plagiarism. The first thing is that when you are writing, you do not write anything direct. Okay. When you are writing something which is directly taken, you paraphrasing also at times it is catched. You have to use your own statements. Whatever you write, you have to use your own statements. If you are using direct quotations, you have to put it in inverted commas, and mention in the reference and citation. So that's what I'm telling. In plagiarism, what will happen? The person who has the access of the control of doing the plagiarism data, converting the plagiarism. Say I was telling that, say, digital marketing is used in your book number of times, and that is coming as a plagiarized term. The person who is checking it will uh, will have an access to ensure that this term is out of the plagiarized report, because it is not plagiarism, it's just captured coincidentally. So the person who has the control of that, and that person will do it automatically. The only thing is, plagiarism ke liye you have to write your own words for everything. You just cannot take direct statements and direct words from anyone, any person's uh, any author's book. That's the only way to avoid plagiarism.
Ma'am, if the figures are there, if the data which is related with the finance, then the figures will be there. So in that case, there can be a possibility of
वही
plagiarism.
बोल रही हूँ ना, वो जो प्लेगरिज्म में फिगर्स आएंगे ना, तो वो जो पर्सन जिसके पास से आप प्लेगरिज्म टेस्ट करवाओगे, जिसके जिसके सॉफ्टवेयर है, जिसने सॉफ्टवेयर लाइसेंस लिया है, then one person will have an access, and with the software license key, then what the person does, that figures you can put it out of the plagiarism percentage. तो वो की कंट्रोल होता है उसका. तो आप अपना ऑथेंटिक सॉफ्टवेयर में वो नहीं कर सकते, आप परचेस्ड सॉफ्टवेयर में, लाइसेंस सॉफ्टवेयर में वो कर सकते.
Okay, ma'am.
तो आप
But,
जैसे
but
एक्सेस करेंगे ना, इफ यू आर डूइंग योर प्लेगरिज्म टेस्ट ऑन एनी ओपन एक्सेस ओपन साइट, देन इट विल कैप्चर. तो वो होगा ही. तो वो दैट इज नॉट द करेक्ट प्लेगरिज्म रिपोर्ट.
okay, but without using any software, if we are doing the literature review by yourself, then in that case, ma'am, if the figures get caught in the
नहीं, वो
plagiarism,
नहीं आता ना. इफ यू आर राइटिंग citation, it won't come. If you say that these $900,000 million business has been done as per the record of this so and so, then it will automatically not come.
thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. I
Any
hope
other
everybody
queries?
has understood at least how, some little 40 to 50% way of how the review of literature can be done.
Participants having any query, they can post it in the chat box, or they can unmute themselves and ask.
So if there are no questions, madam, we can wind up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hussain Ali.
So I hope no participants is having any query. Is there any query? So they can post it in the chat box.
Thank you, Shabina.
Okay, ma'am, I don't think so now participants are
we
having
can
any
wind up.
query. So I thank you, Dr. Kinnari, ma'am, to have an enlightening session on today's topic, that is literature review. Day 2 faculty development program. Your insights have undoubtedly enriched our understanding, and we appreciate your dedication to fostering academic growth. Much appreciation for your efforts in making the content so relatable and applicable. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. And I also like to thank all the participants of the faculty development program in our day 2, that is for literature review, for your active engagement and thoughtful contributions and commitment to professional growth. The success of this program is a testament to the collaborative spirit within our academic community. So your enthusiasm has made this initiative a very enriching one. So thank you all. The participants are requested to fill up the feedback form. It has been forwarded in the chat box as well as it has been forwarded in the WhatsApp group. So this feedback link is open for 1 hour. So I request everyone to fill the feedback form for today's session. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us and guiding us a lot, and all the participants. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Now I will leave the meeting. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.